I want to thank you for joining me in a new video series of studies that is entitled Written for Our Learning, and it's based on Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Some time back, I began this series of studies in a podcast, and with the events that have all transpired regarding COVID and basically having to move home for our studies, that was put on the back shelf, and I want to revive that study with a series of short videos. We're going to be looking at videos about 6 to 8 minutes long that are not intended to be comprehensive by any stretch. As a matter of fact, they're probably going to be more an idea of the seed for study, and hopefully it will encourage personal growth. These videos are going to be available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. If you will just go to YouTube and search Pat McIntosh, you'll find those there. I'm also going to be posting those on my Facebook page and on the page of the Granbury Street Church of Christ family group page. Hope that you will participate in these studies with me, as we're going to be looking at various concepts in the Old Testament that are going to be designed to, again, enhance our understanding of the Old Testament, whet our appetite for deeper study, specifically seeing how we are to learn today from those things. And that's the gist of Romans 15:4. The things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and cover of the scriptures might have hope. We will never fully understand the New Testament, the concepts, the principles, the pictures that are drawn, until we get a better understanding of the beginning of these thoughts as it relates to the Old Testament study. Now, here's a list of some different things we're going to be looking at. It's not going to be any particular order, and I'm going to try not to have multiple part videos. I want these to be standalone, seeing these individual thoughts on their own as we make this study. So we're going to be looking at types and antitypes. And what I mean by that, for example, is the Passover lamb from the Old Testament. We're going to see that applied to Christ. We want to see that type and antitype mentality. The serpent was raised on a pole in the wilderness to save people from snake bite. We move into the New Testament and we see that Jesus Christ was portrayed in that fashion. Just as that serpent was raised in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And we see type, antitype, we see these pictures, we see these symbols, that we see some sense of relation to those. We also want to look at prophecy and fulfillment. Now, again, this is going to be somewhat limited because we're not going to have long, lengthy studies. I want these to be short, brief videos. Hopefully, I want to put one of these up a week for us to be looking at. And as there's time, maybe we'll increase that. But right now, that's the target that I'm shooting for, is one per week, generally on Fridays, as it relates to my schedule. We want to look thirdly at aspects of the scheme of redemption. God's plan to save man, beginning in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15, and then moving throughout the remainder of the Bible, looking at concepts such as the nature of sin, the nature of God, and principles of redemption. Brother Frank Chesser has written a book called Portrait of God that is a fascinating study along these lines. I encourage you to purchase that. I encourage you to participate in these studies with us. We're also going to look at character studies, looking at individuals portrayed through the Old Testament and what we can learn from them today as we strive to walk in our own faith, in our own lives. Some of the areas we'll be focusing on, of course, is Hebrews chapter 11, that role of faith. And we'll take some short pictures, some snapshots of those events to plant a seed to get you to study in more detail these things in your own personal study and grow in your own faith from those things. We're also going to look at book overviews, especially some one-chapter books. For example, Obadiah, a book that's very easy for us to just kind of draw a quick picture in a nutshell, to look at what's said against Edom there and why Edom was condemned by the minor prophet Obadiah. And in other cases, we're just simply going to look at some central main themes of some other books. We might also look at some difficult passages. There's a 2-volume series that Apologetics Press puts out called The Anvil Rings. And it's a book that deals with alleged discrepancies in the Bible. At first glance, we look at several things in which there seems to be a contradiction. We're going to see that that's simply not so. For example, in Genesis 2, there are those who say that we have 2 Genesis accounts and they're entirely different, and one was later. That's not the case, and we'll look at some things along those lines to help better prepare us for these things. In this introductory video, I hope that I've whetted your appetite for this study. Lord willing, next Friday, we'll look at our first lesson, and we're going to begin by looking at some types and antitypes in those studies. Feel free to make comments below these when I post them. Feel free to make suggestions of studies you might like to see, remembering that they're going to be very brief. Later, we might think about amplifying this into a different kind of study. But right now, we want something to watch that's just not going to take very long, something that won't take up much of our time as that goes, but at the same time will be some nuggets that we look at of truth, nuggets from which we can make application in the New Testament as each and every one of us grow in our faith. Please join us in our first study as we begin looking at types and antitypes. Until then, God bless you.